Hey friends, once again this there at the Mind Control Drive. 3 videos this morning. My lights are messed up on my trailer. Mechanics are working on it back there, so I had a little bit of extra time. Anyway, I got to thinking about the videos I made earlier, and mechanics, what are they doing? And anyway, it got me to thinking about how the media exploits people. They play one group off on another and sit back and laugh. Well, it reminds me of an incident that happened back in the 90s. We all know about these TV talk shows. They've been around for decades. And anyway, this one was the Jenny Jones Show. And they were exploiting people. Secret admirers. And you know, a guy has a crush on a gal has a crush on a guy, back and forth, back and forth. The last one, they never aired the show because of what happened later. And they had this dude on there, you know, and say, hey, someone's got a crush on you. And he's like, oh, cool, you know, can meet some nice looking girl or whatever. It was another dude. Some gay dude came out there. And Jenny Jones was sitting back there going, trying to humiliate the guy on national TV. Humiliate the guy. The guy wasn't into that. Well, what'd they do? What happened? The guy got to thinking about that. Here they are trying to humiliate the guy on TV. 3 days later, he went over there and killed the guy. Dude did 20 years in prison. 20 years. He just got out a few years ago. Well, back in those days, this happened back in the 90s. And I was going to Chicago at that time. I used to deliver Pep Boys automotive parts. Anyway, I was at one of the stores. It was not too long after that happened, the Jenny Jones thing. And I was at one of the stores. We were doing some unloading and everything. And there's people working there, people of all categories. This one feller I was talking to was a black feller, and he was very well dressed, very well groomed. He looked like he worked out quite a bit. You know, he had some good sized guns on him. Hair was groomed real nice. He talked properly and all that. And guy looked like he was probably in his mid-30s. And we got talking about that, how that show and these TV talk shows were exploiting people. And the guy stopped dead in his tracks. You know, it's interesting you mentioned that. I said, what's going on? And he said, right after that happened, he goes, I got a call from the Jenny Jones Show. Apparently they were going to be doing a segment on people who look good in uniform. The guy was very well dressed in his uniform, company store uniform, Pep Boys. And it wasn't sagging on him. It was very well fit. Like I said, the guy was pretty buff. He worked out. And so the topic was going to be people who look good in uniform. And he got that phone call, and they said, one of your customers came in and said, you look very good in uniform, and we would like to have you on the show. He's like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. Then he stopped dead in his tracks. Wait a minute. Something doesn't sound right. And they said, is it a guy or a gal? Oh, we can't tell you that. He said, oh, hell no. I said, what was that about? He said, because they told me that one of our customers came in and said I look good in uniform. Well, one of our customers happens to be a tranny. He's like, oh, hell no. This guy was married. He had a family, wife and kids. And they figured, okay, this is how it's going to go down. They were going to get him on this show and put this tranny out there and mortify the guy on national television. And I'm thinking, what a bunch of dirty dogs. You know, to me, you know, the guy could have been any shade, could have been any category. He happened to be a black feller. He was a family man. He was very well dressed, very well groomed. He worked out. He was very fit. And they wanted to mortify this guy on TV. When they said, oh, we can't tell you that. Oh, he knew what was happening. He knew what they were going to try and do, because it was just shortly before this that he got that phone call that they had that guy on that show with the gay dude that came out and tried to humiliate the guy on TV because Jenny Jones was laughing about it. And the guy went over there 3 days later and killed the dude and did 20 years in prison. And this guy goes, "Oh, hell no, you bastards ain't going to do that to me." And so all this, what's happened in 2021 now, the media and all these different groups playing everybody against each other. Constantly and consistently pitting everybody against each other. Which gets me to wondering, like in my last video, you know, all these people of all different categories, genders, races, religions, all that kind of stuff. People who have gotten along for years, are they going to be at each other's throats now, ready to kill each other because of what's being exploited up in Minnesota and all over the place? You know, in the age of social media with camera phones like the one I'm talking on right now, everybody can be their own journalist. Everybody can, you know, take a video within seconds, within minutes. It can be on any number of sites, and anybody around the world can see it, and the media can exploit it one after another. Civil war, yeah. Government against the people, no, people fighting each other. People are going to be at each other's throats. And I remember after the 1992 LA riots, when they were interviewing people, people who were very well-to-do, very well off, and these ladies were saying, you know, I work around people of all categories, you know, I got a lot of good friends that were white, but because the media hyped this Rodney King thing up so much, he goes, I wanted to hit every white face I saw. And they didn't feel like that until the media wouldn't leave it alone. Pushed and pushed and pushed until LA exploded. Every time there's an incident, the media exploits it. And so when the media, you know, exploiting this stuff that's going on in Minnesota right now, just got me to thinking about what happened over 20 years ago on the Jenny Jones show, while they try to humiliate that guy on national television. And then I happened to meet a guy who happened to be a black feller, and they were going to try and do the same thing to him right after that happened. The guy was married, he had a wife, he had kids, he had it going on, and they were going to try and mortify him on national television by bringing a tranny out that says, oh yeah, you look good in uniform. And then people, the way people rib each other all the time, you know, there was people out there that weren't going to let it go. And there probably could have been a very violent or very deadly confrontation because of what the Jenny Jones show was going to do to this Pep Boys employee that I met back in the late 1990s, not long after that segment of the Jenny Jones show that never aired on TV, but I knew up until, I don't know if it's still on YouTube or not, but they did put it up on YouTube, even though they didn't have it on national television. They didn't air it. So anyway, I guess the mechanics about got this wrapped up and I got to get going. But my other two videos I made this morning, I admit they were kind of harsh. And this is what the media does. It makes rational people say, do, and act irrationally. Things that they would normally not say. And the media keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. Like the video they had on Black Scout Survival I was watching this morning, where people had one of their camera phones like I'm talking on right now, and these ghetto mentality people, that if they say, hey, beat everybody white, you know, if they got white skin, beat them, get them, chase them down, and they're actually saying that. Why? Because it's what the media and the radical leftists are pushing. I remember hearing over 30 years ago, 40 years ago, some people out there were talking about there was going to be a race war. And people didn't want to believe it. Well, because of what the media is doing and the way these leftist activists keep pushing and pushing and pushing, I can see it happen. And people of different categories, different races, who have been friends for lifetimes, for years, many years, been good friends, grew up together, are they now going to be at each other's throats because of what the media is doing? All these people involved in interracial marriages, are they going to be at each other's throats because the media and the leftists won't leave it alone and are pitting people against each other? I hate to think about it, but it needed to be said. I'm sure there's other people saying the exact same thing I'm saying. But it needed to be said. The media and the left is pushing for a race war they don't want. You know, the whole Asian attack on Asian people right now, the media is exploiting it. Anything they can to exploit something. I remember, again, back in the 90s, may have been the 80s, but I think it was the early 90s. There was a incident up in New York where there was some Jewish guy, and he ran down a young black kid, unfortunately. And that pit the blacks against the Jews. At that time, when that incident happened, they weren't trying to refer to Jews as white, they were calling them Jews. And I remember seeing black folks having placards like they have all their signs on, all these so-called protests. And there was black fellas that were holding up signs that said, Hitler didn't finish the job. Who would have ever thought that you would see black folks holding a sign like that? But the media they were pitting Jews against blacks. They're always pitting somebody against somebody. Gays against straights. Trannies against everybody. I mean, they're always pitting some group of people against another group of people and then sitting back laughing about it. And I just hate to see it, but I think there is going to be domestic, civil war, race war. I'm sure the media would love to push a gender war. There's going to be just so much chaos out here that a lot of foreign people that come here, they're going to want to split. It's going to be ugly. And next week, I think the country is going to absolutely explode, regardless of what way the verdict goes in the Chauvin trial up in Minneapolis. I got to get going. This is Eric the Mind Control Guy telling y'all, be safe. I said what I said because I needed to say it. It needed to be said. In a certain context, it needed to be said. But the media is pitting everybody against everybody. And now you have rational people saying and doing irrational things because of what's been being exploited. Anyway, I gotta go. So y'all take care and be safe. This is Eric the Mind Control Guy signing off for the third time this morning. Bye-bye.